Justin, how are you today, my friend?
Always good, man. Football is back. It's Friday. We've got some fun games tonight, even 3 straight days. Actually,
Yeah,
four, I guess, if you count Monday Night Football. Let's dive into it, dude. Doesn't get any better than this.
yeah. You guys know him from DNVR Rams. You guys know him from his star appearances on DNVR Bets. I think you've gone 3-0 last shows, and then we played Shark Tank the show prior, and I'm pretty sure you pulled off 3-0 on that. And you've just been on fire with these college football picks. So yeah, man, I'm excited to have you back. I'm especially excited to talk college ball. I want to see what your leanings are in the NFL and how your NFL bets have been doing so far this year. But and Justin does the fantasy show with me, so he's locked in on all the different NFL props and stuff. So it's excited to have you. I'm excited to have you back on, man. This is exciting, and let's just go right to your big three and kick it
Let's
off
do
with
it.
that.
Word. Yeah, we've got Michigan playing Nebraska this weekend, and I don't know. I thought this spread was a lot closer than I would
Yeah.
have expected coming in after the way that Michigan's dominated. I know that Nebraska, they've responded a little bit these last couple of weeks. They've put together, a couple of wins, but I just think the talent gap in the trenches is so superior for Michigan in this one. I don't see how they're going to slow down Aiden Hutchinson. I think the other way, Michigan's going to run the ball down Nebraska's
Mhm.
throat. -3 feels like stealing to me. So I'm all over that. On top of that, we've got Alabama. They're playing at Texas A&M. It's an 18-point spread for the whole game, which I do think they'll cover. But because you can get this -11.5 at plus money, I mean, unless something really fluky happens, this just feels like a lock. I think they're going to be up at least 2 touchdowns at halftime. Again, it's just a difference in talent in the trenches when it comes to these two teams. Although I will
Yeah.
say A&M defensively, they've got some nice pieces to work with and might challenge Alabama a little bit more than, Ole Miss did last week.
Certainly.
Finally, we've got a local game, Wyoming Air Force. I'm taking the over. I think both of these teams are going to be able to move the football on each other, and neither of their defenses are tremendous by any means. I do like Wyoming's linebackers, but
Yeah.
aside from that, I just feel like it's going to be a game where both teams are in the high 20s, if not low 30s. And so with that line set at 47.5, I'm all over the over. That's my big three. Hoping to go. I think this would be, if I went 3-0 this week, I think it'd be like 12-1 or something like that over the last
Yeah.
4 appearances. So knock on wood. Hopefully the hot streak continues.
I think if that happens, we're just gonna have to have a regular graphic for you every Friday show. Even if Ryan's on, we'll have to have you on, or at least have your picks or what have you. Because yeah, man, it's impressive, and I really love these picks. A&M just where's the offense?
That's
Where's the
the thing.
offense?
Like, even if they slow down and force a couple of punts,
Yeah.
I don't think they're going to be able to shut down Bryce Young in this offense. And I just don't see how A&M's going to score against Alabama. I mean,
Right.
we saw Colorado absolutely shut them down. Now,
Yeah.
that was
Right.
earlier in the season, but I mean, the talent
Still.
between Alabama and CU, it's significant. And we just, especially in the first half, we have not seen anybody slow down this Alabama offense yet. And I don't think it's going to be A&M.
No. And let's not forget Jimbo's comments in the preseason talking about they're going to beat Alabama this year. So, I think there's a little extra motivation. And I've always said about Alabama, especially if you don't have an offense, the way that team operates, they're like a boa constrictor.
Mm-hmm.
So, maybe that first bite might seem somewhat innocuous, that you can get over it. But then as the lead starts to grow for them and the defense can just unleash the dogs and the depth comes into play and all their talent, and they start, your defense starts to get tired and all of a sudden you're missing tackles and they're breaking big plays. It's just these small margins start to add up and add up and add up.
I
To where
love
I
that.
think,
That was spot on.
I think this could really, your pick that concerns me most, would be that over Air Force Wyoming. Far be it for me to question any Mountain West pick you give out, because if you've been on the money on anything, it's especially been that. I just worry with the way those two offenses operate that
It's fair, and I considered
we're
it.
gonna shorten the game, right? So yeah.
If it would have been like 51, 52, I think I would have been a little bit more hesitant. But both of these offenses have been striking, although they don't necessarily, they're not known for being like big play offenses. That's kind of where a lot of their plays have been coming this year in terms of where their touchdown plays are coming. So, you know, Wyoming, if Chambers is able to kind of stretch the field on Air Force a couple of times, which usually you're able to do because their DBs are just, they're not the biggest guys in the world. You can kind of just throw some
Right.
50-50 balls up there. I think you can get some cheap scores. And I also just think both teams are going to run the ball so effectively that even though it's going to be eating up time, I don't really see either of these teams getting stopped consistently. Now, it could happen. I mean, it's a rivalry game. I mean, it could happen, but I just really like the over in that one. It feels like it's going to hit.
There is a point to those two teams know each other well and kind of know how to go at those defenses. Let's go to my big three. I tried to mix it up a little more between college and pros, as well as get some props in, since that's what I'm all about. And we'll take Devontae Adams over 89.5 receiving yards. They've got the Bengals on the road. And
Love that.
I think that's just a combination that'll keep doing well. Adams starts the season slow, back-to-back 100-yard games in closer games. And if you look at the spread and even how some of the sharp money has been heavily in favor of the Bengals, countering the public money, everything indicates this will be pretty close. And in close games, Devontae Adams always gets you a Benjamin, essentially. So getting him at 89.5 at minus 115 is a nice deal here. Then Stanford against Arizona State. Speaking of, shortening the game, long possessions, this seems like a Stanford team that has their stuff together once again. They're not going to be world beaters. This isn't some like Stanford team that's going to threaten for a Rose Bowl berth or anything, but they are a team that when I'm going to see a double-digit spread in conference play, I will take that every time. Arizona State, incredibly unreliable, though they have certainly a lot of talent, and I just think Stanford's going to be able to cover this. Very respectable program there. I think Coach Shaw is excellent, and I could see them even backdooring this if this was an easy win. And then in the NFL, give me the New Orleans Saints money line minus 140. Saints just such a hard team to figure out, but they're taking on the football team, and I think this sets up to be kind of a must-win game. Say what you will about Jameis Winston and that offense, but I think it's no doubt better than Heineke and the football team's offense. And I think one of the big storylines in the early half of the season has been how overrated the football team's defense is. And with that said, I think the Saints remain one of the top defensive units in the league, and that's where they're going to have a huge edge here. So give me the road favorite Saints there, just straight up money line. Easy peasy, and that's our big threes of the week. We've got a ton of boost here to get into. So I want to get into the college football parlays with you. I want to run by a couple other dogs and other juicy plays I like on the college football slate, and I want us to get into the NFL slate because last week was correction week. This one, I think there's some openings, and it's also kind of just an interesting NFL card. Before we do all of that, though, I want to remind you that we are presented by the number one sportsbook in all the land, the good people at DraftKings Sportsbook. Incredible deals. Obviously, all the boosted parlays. There's never been a better time between NBA and NHL futures, college football. We've got the MLB playoffs, obviously the NFL. Some great fights going on, including the big Fury Wilder fight that we've got on at the bar this Saturday. It's just like, I don't know what you're doing. And now if you're a new user, You bet $1, you win 100. That's on any NFL market. And if said game that you've bet on, there is a score, and we haven't had a 0-0 tie in the NFL since the early 40s, you win $100 automatically. And I mean,
That's easy money.
you could hedge, because what kind of value would you get on a 0-0 5-quarter overtime scoreless tie in the NFL? That
That's a
would
good
be
point.
at
Yeah.
plus 1,000 almost. So yeah, and it's just, and also if you use code DNVR, they will match that first deposit up to $1,000. So I mean, you just got to get it. There's nothing but great deals all around. Must be 21 or older. Colorado only. Bonus comprised of a first deposit bonus and a first bet match, each up to $500. Deposit bonus requires 25 times playthrough. Restrictions do apply. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-522-4700. Let's get
Pew, pew,
back
pew,
to
pew.
you. Got it. Let's get back to the college football. Oh, man. To make the playoffs would be an interesting conversation for you and I to have right about now, Justin, because if anyone listened to the draft podcast that we recorded last night, you have Iowa in the college football playoffs. You could get that at plus 340,
Yeah, I'm tempted. I've already got him to win the Big Ten. Um, I
No,
really need
that's a good
this. I
deal.
need this Penn State win this weekend, and if that happens, then they're really sitting pretty. Just with the way that the schedule favors out. Yeah, that's good value, especially because Bama, Georgia, you're not going to get any money there. They already know that they're giving. You can get Ohio State at plus 150 right now, which if you think that they're going to turn it around, that's not bad. Or Penn State at plus 500.
Penn State at plus 500 would be my play, but that's where you and I are on different odds of this Nittany Lions Hawkeyes game in Iowa. So how's this play out? Is this an over? Is this an under? What's the path to victory for the Hawkeyes here? And
What's the
then I
spread?
just
I'm
want to
pulling
kind
up the
of
spread right now.
pick your brain on Georgia Auburn, as well as the Red River rivalry. We've got some good ones on the college football slate.
40 and a
Oh,
half. Oof, that's a tough one. I
I know, and
wouldn't
it's
feel comfortable
crazy.
putting money on either of those, but I do think Iowa's path to victory is in a low scoring game.
Yes.
Um, but I also think that they are more capable offensively than they get credit for. And part of
Yes.
that is the way that these games have played out. They had a weird game against CSU, obviously, but I mean, they
Sure.
beat the brakes off of Maryland on the road last weekend in what was kind of viewed as a trap game for them. Especially with this Penn State game coming up. It's the biggest game on their schedule left. They
Yeah.
already beat down Iowa State. They have a quality win over Indiana. I don't know. I trust the way that they play. And I'm not sure that I'm a Clifford buyer at this point yet. Like I like what Penn State has offensively at the skill positions. I think that they're a team on the up and up, but I also could see them turning it over once or twice. And
Yeah.
if they do that, Iowa's just been so opportune. Like they forced turnovers and they've scored off of it, and they haven't turned the ball over a lot themselves. You're going to win a lot of games when you do that. And they won 6 straight to close out last year. They haven't lost yet this year. I'm all in on Iowa right now.
It's a solid program. It's been a different Penn State team too. They are, I mean, under James Franklin, I don't remember many years where they were like winning 2010. So I'm encouraged that they're winning different, but yeah, Clifford's one of those guys where
It's just like Penn State quarterbacks in general for the last decade. I mean, even going, like Hackenberg, they've just had so many McSorley, like
yeah,
so many guys where they flash at moments, but you just can't ever really trust them. And that's kind
yeah.
of been the difference between them and some of these other teams at the top of the Big Ten, because they have talent everywhere else and they consistently have.
Yeah, I'm feeling Penn State. I think your case for Iowa and them being the home team is very, very strong.
I just
Yeah,
trust him. I just trust, like, I don't love Petrus by any means. But I do think Iowa's talent at the receiver position is a little bit underrated. I like what they have in the backfield. I'm drawing a blank on his name right now, but he's been really, really effective this
he's
year.
explosive. Yeah.
Um,
And they're one of those programs when you can get them as a home dog, slam away. Also, one of those programs who, as a fave in December,
Probably fade him a little bit.
be weary, right?
Yeah.
Let's get into Georgia Auburn. I can't bet on this game because Georgia obliterated me last week in what was a really good week. Like, aside from my Arkansas Maryland calls, I was on the money with all the other games. It didn't matter because of how heavy I went in fading Georgia. And boy, did they prove me wrong. Can this be a letdown? I mean, this is the meaty part of the Bulldogs schedule. What's your read, man? You're kind of my SEC expert here.
It's game 2 out of a 4-game stretch where Georgia has to play 4 straight ranked teams. That's one of the things we kind of dove into on the draft pod. This is kind of the prove it stretch for Georgia, because if they get through this unscathed, they buy themselves, I think, at least one regular season loss, to where if they got in the SEC championship, you might even have some leeway there, just especially with the way that this is all playing out. We still haven't had, Michigan and Ohio State or any of those teams play. We don't know how many losses anybody in the Big Ten is going to have. And Georgia and Bama are so far at the top. It's just one of those where, like, if they take care of business here against Auburn, it's just another layer of comfort for them going into the playoff. I will say, I feel a little weary, but also, Auburn, they're coming off the high of upsetting LSU in a dramatic way with Bo Nix.
Yeah,
they could come down to life here a little bit. I mean, maybe they come out with the same type of mentality. I don't know. I just think Georgia defensively.
I know.
Do we think Bo Nix is going to beat them? Probably not.
No, he's definitely not. He's definitely not.
I like Georgia to cover, but it's such a large spread.
Totally.
I am a little bit weary of it.
Right.
Especially getting backdoored late.
Exactly. We always like to say everyone loves a low number. Everyone hates a high number, but sometimes the picks that make you most uncomfortable and that you hate the most are kind of the better play.
That's been Bama for 2 years now. Every week 100%. It's like 19 and a half or 22, and you're like, oh God, that's absurd. And then they win by 32, and you're like, why was I questioning that?
Well, and that's my hang up. I'm not ready to give Georgia that Bama status, but shoot, I mean, you look at how Bama was constructed 10 years ago. You hated their quarterback, but they had that boa constrictor analogy that I made earlier. That definitely applies to Georgia as well, because that defense keeps coming and coming and coming, and you keep giving those playmakers the ball. They just slowly start to break through. Red River rivalry here.
I like Texas. I'm just not in on Spencer Rattler. Now, obviously, he's coming into his own a little bit. He's looked good. He closed that game against K-State really strong when they kind of tested him a little bit and had him on the ropes. That impressed me, but I don't know. I like the talent that Texas has on offense. I love the way they can run the football consistently.
Yes.
And I think that's a big deal, especially in a game like this where it could come down to just a possession or two, being able to grind on that run game late, and whether it's to set you up for field goal position, but to just run the clock a little bit. And I just don't trust Rattler yet. Like, in the big moment, he's kind of let this team down every single time in his career. And I don't know. I'm in on Sarkisian offense. Like, I bought in when he was down at Bama. I think he's going to do similar things for Texas. I don't know if they're going to be back, but I don't trust this Oklahoma team. And I like the value in taking Texas here, because you're just not going to get the same value betting on OU.
Yep, I'm with you on this one all the way. And the sharp money kind of shares our view, or shares your views on all these games. Yeah, I think Texas can put up numbers with that run game, and Rattler is going to run into enough mistakes to open this up. Now it's a 3-point spread. Like,
well, that's what I wanted to ask you. Do you like the money line's plus 140? You can get plus 3 at minus 110, which gives you a little bit of leeway if they lose a close one. But I think I'm in enough on Texas to where, like, I'd rather just have the plus money.
Yep.
go for the big win.
I am too. And I mean, they've been in so many close games, even with Ellinger and Texas not being as closely matched up. It's just one of those where like it's going to be a toss up. And yeah, I'd rather have a money line than a spread because anything can happen in a wacky
Exactly.
Red River. I am being notified that you guys will have to tune in Sunday morning at the tailgate for Ryan's vaunted all dogs go to heaven parlay in the NFL, 2 of 4 the first 4 weeks. As far as the pros go, who's jumping out at you? What's
Yeah, let me.
what's tickling your fancy here? You know, Chargers Browns, one of the big games of the weekend, with the Chargers as just 2-point favorites. I'm sure there'll be a lot of Browns fans in this one.
I like the Chargers though, man. I just trust them. I'm buying into what the Chargers are doing right now. I think Herbert is as complete of a quarterback as there is, at least out of these young guys that are kind of up and coming, kind of big arm.
Yeah.
And if it turns into a shootout, I like LA's ability to stretch the field a hell of a lot more than I like Cleveland. Now, if Cleveland can force some turnovers and then get an early lead and rely on that run game, that could change some things. But even so, LA's kind of built to be able to even come back from behind. So they're so explosive. And I just like their offense better. And I think their pass rush is going to kind of neutralize what Cleveland does through the air. I'm all in on the Chargers on this one.
Yeah, I think it'll be a great game. I think the Chargers have a slight advantage defensively and offensively. I think what you said is exactly right. What's interesting to me, though, this is going to be a massive test for rookie left tackle Rashawn Slater.
That's a good point.
Against Myles
We
Garrett.
had real questions about him, and
Yeah.
you know, is he a left tackle? He's been pretty good this first month.
Oh, he's been
but
great.
This is going to be his first like real NFL test. I mean, every week's a test, but you know what I mean. This is
no, there are just teams we found that some Sundays can't block Myles Garrett.
Yeah.
You do not have the personnel, scheme, anything, and he's just unblockable. And he literally
hopefully the Chargers try and help him out. It wouldn't surprise me if they use a lot of multi tight end sets, if they're trying to run some screens to Eckler, some swing passes to just kind of just neutralize them, run the ball right past him.
Well, and then you got to count on Herbert to break a few tackles, make some plays on the run. I mean,
he's a big dude.
Margins are going to be he's insane. The physical tools have ticked up so incredibly.
It makes me wonder, like,
it's something else.
I was pretty skeptical of him coming out, and I get that I stand by the things that we were nervous of, but it's just like when you watch him now, it's kind of just like, man, you big dumb idiot.
Yeah. It's kind of crazy how he's developed. Anything else you want to hit on the NFL here?
If Teddy Bridgewater plays right now, you can get the Broncos at -1 at +100. And I mean, you might as well at that point. The money line would be -110 if you think they're going to win. I guess technically if they won by 1, that would screw you, but you'd get your money back even. So I like the value there, but I just don't think Pittsburgh can move the ball against this Broncos defense. I will say Tomlin coaching for their season makes me very nervous. Well, and there are very few people I respect more in those type of games.
Tomlin's a key here. And I think what we said about Garrett in that Chargers game could apply to Von Miller in this game, because Ben's so immobile and that O-line is struggling. That could really wreck the game. But yeah, I think having Teddy in this game is also key. So that could definitely make it into the all dogs. But
before we go real quick though, I just have one question. Where are you at? Giants are 7-point underdogs against the Cowboys. Am I crazy for wanting to take those points? It's like classic Cowboys letdown opportunity.
Yeah.
I think the Cowboys are a way better team. This might be me just trying to talk myself into it. But I also think that the Giants move the ball a little bit better than we kind of give them credit for. At least they have these last couple weeks. They haven't been playing great defense.
They are starting to click a little more, but 7 might just be the correct line here.
That's what I'm worried. I think if it was like 8.5, 9, I'd probably be all over it. But
right.
That's why I asked.
Yeah. There you go. Thank you, Justin. Thank you all for tuning in this week.
I do love that.
Yeah, I think that's a great place. Taking the over on that 4.5. Seems like really nice play. Yeah. And tune into the tailgate, tune into Rams late night after the big game against San Jose State. Go check out Rams tailgate, Broncos watch party here at the bar, fight night, all sorts of great stuff for all our great people, and have a great weekend. We will be back Monday.